This podcast is sponsored by BCH. BCH have been providing flats-specific reinstatement cost assessments for almost 20 years, with the building's insurance premium often contributing to a large portion of a service charge. BCH can provide specialist, third-party, unbiased, RICS-compliant reinstatement cost assessments, allowing the managing agent maximum compliance and best practice and the placement of the most competitive buildings insurance. Their commitment to accessible, prompt and accurate buildings insurance valuations has seen BCH secure the best first step in buildings insurance for over 600,000 flat owners. For a quote, please contact info@bch.uk.com today.
Welcome to another episode of Beyond Four Walls, the podcast where we explore many aspects of the property management landscape, particularly mental well-being, and the innovative strategies that help us thrive in today's fast-paced world. I'm your host, Jodie Fraser, and today I have an amazing guest joining me, Anji McGrandles. Anji is not just a mental well-being expert, she is the founder of the Mind Tribe, where she's dedicated her career to equipping individuals and organisations with the tools they need to enhance their mental health. With an impressive portfolio that spans global clients, Anji has developed programs that are both accessible and practical, focusing on neurohacks and mindset techniques designed to help us problem-proof our days. From luxury retreats to tailored events for brands and press, Anji's expertise is sought after, making her a prominent figure in the wellness community. She also serves as the wellness editor for the luxury lifestyle publication House of Cocoa, and regularly shares her insights with international media. And in today's episode, we'll dive into a variety of topics, including workplace mental health, resilience, mindfulness, and the importance of sleep in enhancing our productivity and performance. Anji, thank you so much for being with me today.
Nice to join you. Hello.
Hi. I'm interested in the sleep bit because I have a 5-year-old and even now I don't get much of that. So can you tell me a little bit about your journey into the field of mental well-being and what inspired you to start the Mind Tribe?
I have got a corporate background. I worked in comms for many years, going in at entry level, working my way up to board director level. And while I was in a really high profile comms role, my husband was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And probably for the first time ever, I really experienced poor mental health. I felt really stressed. I wasn't sleeping. My diet was really poor. I felt that stressed. I wasn't eating all the time. And I guess the big gap for me was I didn't have the right kind of support I needed. And that was from a workplace perspective. And that wasn't to say that the people I was working with weren't supportive or empathetic. They were amazing, but they just didn't have those resources. It was pre-COVID. So, hardly any businesses had workplace well-being programs. We had fruit bowls, discounted gym memberships, but that was not going to help me when I was, awake in the middle of the night, stressing about my husband's health. And it just made me think, gosh, there must be so many people experiencing not necessarily brain tumors, but, divorce, trying to have kids, dealing with life's curveballs, which we have to on a daily basis. You cannot escape pressure. And what are people doing? Who's helping them? And I think as well, because of my husband's journey, and it was all kind of around his brain health, it made me look into the brain a little bit more and why we behave in certain ways and how you can use neurotechniques to, rewire your thinking and to operate differently. Once my husband recovered and he's fit, he's well, he's all well now, I went and retrained. I thought to myself, I want to help people who are feeling stressed. And I think given I worked in a really fast-paced environment, it made me really think about the kind of tools that I trained in and that I would share with people, because meditation, mindfulness, they're often seen as a little bit woo-woo. Do you know what I mean? And definitely at that time. And I thought, when I was feeling at my most stressed and pressured, what would have helped me and
Yeah.
what would have made me operate better at a better level. So I took that experience, built it into my business. And yeah, that was how the Mind Tribe was formed.
Amazing. So glad to hear your husband is doing okay. I mean, how long ago was it?
The Mind Tribe's been going now for 8 years. So
Mm,
he had his tumor when my daughter was a baby, so quite a while ago, about 12 years ago
right.
now.
Okay. And that must have been really stressful. You've got a baby, your husband's not very well, and going through all of the treatment that you have to go through for that, especially for a brain tumor. It's just, horrific. So it's great to hear that you've all come through it really well, and you've used that as a positive experience to do what you do now. So tell me about the Mind Tribe then. What is it? What does it do? How does it help people?
So we're a workplace wellbeing company
Hmm.
and we work with brands, businesses, to help them with their overall wellbeing programs. And that varies, to be honest, Jodie, on a case by case basis.
Mm,
What we do is very tailor-made, very bespoke. Some businesses we go in, we design strategies, we design the whole program, and we help them implement it. And then some companies that I work for, big global companies, they've got five of me that
mm,
work within the business, that know the strategy, that know, the program, but they want people to come in with an expert voice and talk about key themes. And, some businesses I'll just go and deliver training for. I've got a team of associates as well that work with me, depending on what we're talking about. So menopause experts, finance experts, nutritionists, fitness experts. But yeah, it really depends on what businesses need. And what we tend to do is we start right at the end, and it's like, right, why have you called me? What is it you're looking for? What is happening right now in your business that you've picked up the phone and said, right, we need to get some support, or we need some help with X, Y, or Z. And
mm.
then from there, we help build a brief. And then whatever that looks like, whether it's training, whether it's designing programs, whether it's designing strategies, then we implement it.
They tell you what they want to achieve, and then you kind of work backwards in order to create something. That's a really good idea.
So people might say to me, for example, we've got a lot of sickness at the moment and a lot of people being signed off with poor mental health.
Hmm.
And we're not retaining staff, or we might not be attracting good people, or they're not staying very long. There's something happening within our business that we need to address. What is it? So we'll look at things like culture and making well-being part of what I always say, make it part of your DNA, make it
Hmm.
your red thread rather than something that you just bolt on as a nice to have. Or people might say to me, look, we're going through a lot of change. Our business is changing, we're restructuring, or we're growing at such a fast pace that we're struggling to keep up, and we need some support proactively to help our teams mind their mind, because we don't want them to get burnout and we don't want them to feel stressed. So can you help us while we, do the back end stuff and bring in new staff to take on the extra workload? Can you help with the proactive piece? So yeah, it really does vary.
I mean, that's incredible, and great, as you say, like post COVID as well, that people are investing in their
Mm.
employees in this way. But do you find that there are common misconceptions or what are the common misconceptions that you encounter with working in this space? And as you said earlier, some people still think it's a bit woo-woo, especially the older generation, maybe. I don't
Mm.
know. How do you overcome that? What do you find that there's a difficulty with that?
The first part of that is probably the misconceptions piece. And I think that quite often still people think that only those that are diagnosed with a mental health condition need support. And that's not true.
Yeah.
When it comes to your mental health, you've got to be mentally fit and you've got to proactively take care of your mental health so that when you are facing challenging periods, which we all do, you're better equipped to deal with them. Another misconception, I think, as well, is people think good well-being, good mental well-being is about being happy all the time and being positive, and it isn't. Good mental well-being is acknowledging tricky emotions. It's acknowledging that you're feeling stressed and it's sitting with that and dealing with that and working through it and knowing that it's actually okay to feel like this and it's not a forever thing and it will pass. And yeah, because I think sometimes people think you've got to be like, old Pollyanna and see life through rose-tinted glasses. Well, you don't. And that's not what good well-being is. So that's quite a
Yeah.
common misconception. In terms of how people view well-being and how you make, I guess it's how do you make well-being received better within businesses? Because there will be, you will always get people who'll be like, it's not for me. And I think it's how you approach wellness when you go into the workplace. There's no one size fits all. And you've got to know your audience. You've got to know who you're talking to. I quite quickly can read a room. I get a feel of who I'm going to talk to before I go into the room as well. What are some of the challenges within the business? Is even things like how many women are in the room versus men, what are the ages, just so I can get a real feel for who I'm going to be talking to. And I think because at the Mind Tribe we use a lot of science-backed techniques, people go, okay, that's why breath technique is brilliant. And it's not just for people who do yoga and well-being gurus, and repositioning mindfulness as well. So, people think mindfulness is meditating and all of that, and it isn't. If you're a baker, you're being mindful because you're there, you're mixing, you're measuring, you're in the zone. You're not thinking about a call you've got next week or an email you had last night. If you play golf, you're being mindful. You're on the first tee, you're lining up your shot, you're thinking about where that golf ball's going. You are not thinking about anything else. If you garden, you're in your garden and you're weeding and pruning and all the rest of it, you're being mindful. If you're picking up a book and you get lost in a book for an hour, that's being mindful. So with things like mindfulness, you've got to have your own interpretation of it. And, you've got to dispel some of those myths that mindfulness is for wellness gurus and mindfulness is a bit woo-woo. It isn't. It's just about being present and just being focusing on what you're doing and being in the here and now.
So I was going to say a book is my escape every time. Just
Oh,
sit,
me too.
cup of tea, good book. I'm happy.
Mm, that's me, yeah.
Yeah, it is still hard to switch off though, especially like running your own business and everything. I have to put my phone quite far away because otherwise I'll be like,
Yeah.
oh, something will ultimately still pop into your head, won't it? Even if you've lost yourself in a book or you've lost yourself in the garden or whatever, something will still pop into your head. And if your phone is still next to you, you think, oh, I'll just check that and then I'll go back to my book. Well, yeah, it's trying to stay in that moment, isn't it? And not thinking about anything else.
I think the phone as well is, I think that's a big mental health challenge. It's definitely a bone of contention in our house. We've got a teenager, and everything that we fall out over or we disagree on is centered around the phone. And we've got to have hard and fast rules. Otherwise, you can get caught up in that social media rabbit hole and all the rest of it. And I think as well with things like the phone, just what you said, putting it in another room, that creates friction. And when you're trying to break a bad habit, like reduce your screen time, you've got to add some friction to make it harder to do. And if it's right beside you, it's easy to pick up. Like when I'm at work and I've got to get my head down, I can't have the phone in the same room as me, or I will think of things and I will end up looking at stuff. So I'll go and put it downstairs. And then if I need to get that phone, I've got to get up and walk all the way downstairs. And again, that adds friction. So I'm a bit less likely to do it.
I get that. I get that. Because as I said, things will pop into your head. Oh, I wonder if I need something, or Amazon will probably have it. So I'll just do that quickly and it'll be here tomorrow. And then that's done and that's out of my head. But then more things just pop in. So yeah, it's a little bit crazy. But so in your experience, what do you think are the biggest challenges people face when they're trying to prioritize their mental health?
For me, and what I see when I go into businesses and working with teams and individuals, is people try to do too much at once. So it's like, when we make resolutions or we set out to do things, at the beginning of the new year, we have all these big goals, and there's nothing wrong with having big goals. The trick to maintaining good mental health and proactively looking after your mental health is to do small things consistently. So create really easy habits that you can incorporate into your daily routine that don't feel difficult, that are easy to attain and easy to do. Basics for me and fundamentals of good mental health and good mental well-being is sleep, hydration, exercise, diet. I think if you get those right and you proactively look after them, then you're on the front foot when it comes to looking after your mental wellness. And you don't have to make it difficult. So, exercise, you don't have to pull on your trainers and run a marathon. It's just, right, what can I do daily that will become habitual? And it could be walking the dog. It could be doing a walk-in meeting if you're working from home. It doesn't have to be big things. And it's the same with, diet, hydration, sleep. It's just about building things into your routine that you can make stick. When you go too big and you try and do too much. So, if you've got a really, say, poor diet, you try and have this massive overhaul, then you're less likely to stick to a healthy eating plan. But if you were to just even start by saying, okay, I'm going to make sure I have a really good breakfast. I'm going to, start with a really good breakfast, and I'm going to have a really good lunch. Then you then build in, a healthy snack. I always think as well that what you do on a morning has an impact on the rest of your day. So I call it domino mornings. I truly believe that if you start your day really well, then it has a knock-on effect on the rest of your day. So think about what you can do first thing in the morning, getting out, any kind of movement. Like I said, you don't have to go to the gym, you don't have to do a gym class. It can just be a walk, getting lots of water into you, eat well. And then, the big bone of contention is sleep, isn't it? And that's the challenge for people. Sleep's really difficult. And I think with sleep, you've got to find your sleep pattern, and you've got to get your sleep routine to fit in around you and to fit in around your lifestyle. If you've got a newborn baby, then you're going to struggle to get 9 hours an evening. And people talk about optimum sleep times as well. And I think we get caught up in, got to get 7 hours. We've got to get in 7 hours. We don't actually always need 7 hours. The amount of sleep you need depends on your job, your age. And funnily enough, as we get older, we need less. And I'd have thought we would have needed more sleep as we got older, but we don't. We need less. Depends on, like I said, your job, how active you are. But getting into a good sleep routine and having a good sleep pattern can really enhance your overall wellness and well-being. Because let's face it, when we're tired, it has such a huge impact on our performance. There was a study that the British Army carried out with their soldiers a couple of years ago, and they found that the soldiers that had just one night of disrupted sleep, when they measured their cognitive abilities the next day, they were reduced by 30%. Quite a big number.
Yeah,
And that's
I
just
am a
one night.
nightmare if I don't get enough sleep. An
Yeah,
absolute nightmare.
I think we're all different, aren't we? Like some
Mm,
people are not too bad, some people really feel it. And the other thing as well, right? When you don't sleep very well, you tend to then increase your caffeine intake.
mm,
You tend to eat more sugary foods because you're just like, I'm so tired. I need like a bit of chocolate or a bit of a hit just to kind of get me through the rest of the day. And again, that then has like an impact on everything else.
mm.
If you're
Yeah.
drinking more caffeine, you're not drinking as much water. Loughborough University have done a study as well, and they found that being just 2% dehydrated impacts your mood, it reduces your alertness, it reduces your concentration. So again, like water plays a big role in how we perform.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I went through a period of burnout and got really sick. a few years back, and yeah, I think I was just surviving on cups of tea and paracetamol because I was like,
Yeah,
going between I've got a headache, I'll take some paracetamol. Oh, I'm tired, I'll have a cup of tea,
yeah,
kind of thing, and it was all, and just super stressed and just being, in that, when you're just going through the motions every day. And my daughter was 3 at the time. We've been going through COVID and all that kind of stuff. She was born 4 months before we went into lockdown. So yeah, it was a really, really tricky time, and I still struggle with sleep now. If I'm worked up about something or stressed about something, that's the first thing that is a problem. Well, funnily enough, I go one way or the other. If I get really, really down about something, I'll find that I'll need to just go to sleep, because it's like a reset for me, and I just need to just go to sleep, and that will make things better in a way. It doesn't,
yeah.
but that's how I feel at the time. I just need an hour. I just need an hour to go to sleep. But then on the flip side, if I've got lots going through my mind, I'll be led in bed thinking, I can't sleep, I can't sleep. And then the more you think you can't sleep, the more you don't sleep. So
The vicious circle, isn't it?
yeah,
I think that once you get into that routine, then you're just waiting that
yeah,
night to then wake up. And I'm going to wake up. And
mm,
again, what we ask our brain for, it delivers by the bucket load.
yeah,
So we only get what we ask for in some ways. But I think, yeah, sleep's an interesting one. And I think, if you're waking up and you're worried about things and you've got loads of stuff going on, I always recommend journaling,
hmm
because that's a good technique to get everything down before you go to bed, like really empty your brain. Let's face it, we all lead super busy lives and we dash from one task to another, get home from work, dinner, kids, gym, friends, social, whatever it is we have to do. And then the only time we really get to like go, ah, is when we get into bed.
mm,
So then we like lay there and we're like, oh, now I can think about that. But actually,
yeah,
that's not what you want, because then your brain starts churning everything over. And that's when we get overwhelmed and we get more worried and more stressed.
mm,
So journaling, like before you go to bed, can really help empty your brain of everything. So this is how I'm feeling, or even, journaling can be, as if you're not somebody who journals or feels overwhelmed by journaling, journaling can be as simple as a to-do list.
mm,
It can be, right, what have I got to do tomorrow? And, what am I most concerned about tomorrow? And what can I do to alleviate some of that concern? So
mm,
if I've got a big meeting, have I prepared? Have I, thought about how I'm getting to that meeting, organize my travel? Have I laid out what I'm going to wear the next day? Really simple things like to help alleviate that stress, because stress comes from two things really: lack of control, or your perception of a situation.
mm,
So the lack of control we can really work on by taking control proactively and saying, right, what can I do to help me feel better going into next week? How can I prepare on Friday before I, shut the laptop down for the weekend?
mm,
What can I do the night before? So it's taking control where you can. And then obviously the other thing is your perception. And you can work on your perception through mindset skills, through, neuroscience techniques. So you can get better at managing those things. But proactively taking control will definitely help with sleep. It will help you go into bed feeling like I've done everything I can. I've got
mm,
nothing really to worry about. I mean, obviously, there's big worries that will keep you awake, and you can't journal out, or you can't plan for, sickness, health, finances, things like that. But again, then I think that that's down to sharing and really leaning in on people and having conversations, because keep it all bottled in, it gets heavier and it doesn't go anywhere. It
yeah,
just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then, yeah, you're even more worried. So I think for the sleep one, for me, it's about planning where you can. And then if it's bigger things, then it's about,
mm,
you know, asking for help, asking for support,
Yeah.
where you need it most.
Yeah. But how do you keep yourself grounded and maintain your own mental well-being through all of this? Because if you're supporting other people and you're doing all of these programs and retreats and writing for the magazine and how do you take all of people everybody else's stress and anxiety on board, or how do you look after yourself?
I mean, don't get me wrong, right? I have like periods when I feel really stressed and I feel really overwhelmed and I've got things going on that worry me. I guess the basic stuff is really important. Exercise is so important to me. I get up, I go to the gym every morning before work, even if I only do like 30, 45 minutes, because that helps me clear my head, that helps me feel good. I get that massive, release of endorphins. And I'm like, right, I'm ready for today. I feel like I can take on the day a little bit more than if I had just got up and drank tea and then went straight to my desk. Again, like having a good breakfast, trying to look after my sleep, all of those things, I think really help me. But also, I share quite a lot about how I feel. If I'm worried about something, I'll message my sister or I'll call my friend and I'll say, gosh, I've really got this on my head right now. And what do you think? What advice would you give me? And I think you've got to do that, because I think sometimes we're a little bit unkind to our mind. And if we make mistakes or if things are, don't go according to plan, then we can be a bit like, why did I do that? Why didn't I say that? Didn't manage that situation very well. That's making me feel more stressed. So yeah, for me, I guess it's getting the basics right. And if I'm really feeling overwhelmed about things, then talking to people about it. And then, the whole kind of work side of things, I guess when you're talking to other people and you're taking on some of their stresses, you can't help but feel empathy for other people and concern if people are feeling like really stressed. But it's about, I guess, doing your best to give them the right tools. I've never really been in a situation where I've been concerned for anyone's mental health, like
Mm-hmm.
really concerned when I've delivered workshops. A lot of what we do here at the Mind Tribe, like we're not doctors, we're not GPs, we are about proactively working with tools that will help you problem proof your day. So what can
Mm-hmm.
you do proactively to help yourself so that when you do go into a really challenging period or when it's really stressful, you've got the right tools to help you mind your mind. I've never really kind of been in a tricky situation where I've felt concerned or worried about somebody in a workshop.
Mm. Well, that's good that, as you say, you go in and you try and be proactive about it rather than going in when somebody is already on the brink of burnout or
Yeah.
anything like that, and you think, oh, that person, I'm really worried about that person. But so talk to me about how you tailor your programs for different audience. So you've got your corporate clients and then you've got your luxury retreats, is that right?
Yeah.
So how do you do both? What's the score with those?
Well, again, it comes back down to the brief and
Mm,
what people, need, require, and works in that setting. I guess a lot of what we do for corporates is around productivity and performance with a wellness lens.
hmm
So, how do you go to work, bring your A game, and still be your best self? So, how do you go and smash it at work without really damaging your mental health and compromising your mental health? So, how do you do that? Well, here's some tools to help you do that. And here's ways you can manage pressure better and you can still perform really well without putting, your wellness at risk, your mental health. And then the things that we do for corporates, again, we'll have more of a holistic approach to wellness. It will take in things like stress management, but we might help people with daily wellness tools that they can bring into their home life. people come on retreats and they're not always working. They could be stay-at-home moms, or they could have retired, or they might not need to work. So it's what kind of tools do you need to enhance and improve your overall well-being? So, our team will work with them on things like fitness, diet. We might introduce new rituals, wellness routine like journaling, breath technique. So it really does depend
Yeah.
on the brief in each situation. But we do
Yeah.
corporate retreats as well. So we do like corporate away days and things like that.
I think that
Mm.
definitely needs to be incorporated more into businesses, sort of getting people out of their daily routine and getting people out of their heads as well, and trying to focus on actually what is it. And even as you say, from a corporate perspective, sometimes when you're in a job and you're just doing it 9 to 5 every day and you're just plodding through everything, you can't really think outside the box in terms of, well, actually, what do I want from this job, or where do I
Yeah,
see myself? So you go into a review, for example, with your boss, and they say, oh, where do you see yourself with the company in the next couple of years, or one of those corporate type questions, and you think, oh, well, I don't know, because I've just been literally getting on with my day job. I don't have the brain
yeah.
space to try and figure out anything.
And we
So,
do goal setting workshops as well for brands, and then we do them for business, and we do them at the retreats. And that's all around kind of thinking about, right, where am I right now? And where do I want to be? And what does that look like? How am I going to get there? What do I need to do? We share like quite a lot of insights in our workshops, but I always say at the top of every session, insight without action is useless. You've got to be able to take this away and take it back to your desk and do something with it. So with our goal setting courses, and we run a lot in September as well. I think that kind of September, getting back off holiday, most people have the summer break. People are ready to reset again and have
mhm.
another look at their goals. So we do quite a lot of those and help people practically to make a plan, but also give them the mindset techniques to achieve those goals as well. So
Okay.
what do I need to help me with my confidence? What do I need to help me overcome barriers and things like that, like mentally? So we do a lot of that, which is really good fun.
And can you tell me a little bit about your role as the wellness editor then for House of Cocoa?
Yeah, so I have been working with House of Cocoa for a number of years now. An amazing job where I get to go and experience lots of wellness travels. Wellness travel is huge, especially post-COVID. People want to go on holiday and come back feeling rejuvenated and reset, where I think kind of pre-COVID, people would go on holiday and do so much that they'd come back and need another holiday. They'd be like, that's great, but I've done everything. So yeah, wellness travel's huge. So I'll go to lots of different destinations, hotels, work with brands on their wellness offer. So it might be going and reviewing the wellness offer for a hotel in the Maldives, and what does that
Oh,
look like, and what's that package, and how can I translate that back to print so that people will go, actually, that's going to help me because I need to reset right now, or I need to look at my nutrition, and the hotel have got a chef that plans all the food and marker tests you can do when you're out there, and there's GPs, and you can get an IV drip and all the rest of it. So it's really having a look at what these hotels and destinations offer, but also trends. So what are the trends that are coming through, and having access to lots of new tech as well. So,
hmm.
personalized wellness is big right now. I write a lot about things like that. I also have a monthly column that I'll talk about the latest products and trends again. So, what wellness tech are people using? Everything from NAD plus injections through to cryotherapy to contrast therapy. And I'll go
Okay.
and try these different things and then write about them, and how did I experience them, and how can you experience them and bring them into your routine, and are they worth bringing into your routine, and things like that. So it's a great opportunity, and I'm very grateful that I get to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds amazing. I've looked into doing sort of travel blogs and that sort of thing in the past, but you know what this job is like, obviously with your sister. So it's like, it's a little bit hectic to be adding one more thing to my list. But yeah, that sounds amazing and really exciting for you. But are there any practical tips, I guess, or practical ways to enhance productivity within businesses or within maybe even the property industry without then sacrificing your mental health?
Systems, processes are like super important to look at as a company and a team. How can we streamline things? What are we doing? What's really impacting our productivity? So I think a big thing that impacts people's productivity is meetings. I was working with a business last month and they were like, oh my God, we have client meetings, team meetings, company meetings. I mean, I don't know how many meetings you need to have. You can distill quite a lot of information into an email and disseminate it across the company without needing updates. Don't have to go on for 30 minutes, but it really depends on how efficient you are. I have a really good tool that I always share with teams around meetings and agendas, and it's about structuring a meeting agenda and having really clear roles and responsibilities. Because I know from when I worked in a corporate environment, I'd go into like a Monday morning meeting and I'd be waiting 5 minutes because people were still making a cuppa. Then they'd talk about what was on the TV over the weekend. Did you see that? And you're like, yeah. And then you get into like a 5 minute conversation about that. And you've lost probably 10, 15 minutes before you even start the meeting. So I think it's about just being like really strict with people and your time and say, I can do a meeting. We only need 10 minutes to do this meeting. And I want you to come to the meeting and share your thoughts on this, X, Y, and Z. And so-and-so is going to talk about A, B, and C. And you've each got 5 minutes to talk about that. And I need you to bring with you 2 solutions or 2 ideas around that, rather than let's go into it, let's kick it around for 5 minutes and have a big discussion about it. Just come in and let's be really strategic about our time, what we're bringing to this meeting, and ask, do we need this meeting? People don't ask, do we need this meeting often enough?
I had to have a meeting with a solicitor about a lease breach. I said, oh, I'll meet you at Starbucks, or no, I'll meet you at Costa in Cheltenham. And then we just walked around Cheltenham for an hour with our coffees. And we did the meeting that way. And it worked really well. You've mentioned neurohacks a couple of times. Can you explain a bit about what a neurohack is?
So a neurohack is a science-backed technique that will enhance your mental well-being. So it could be something as simple as breath technique. We've got a part of our brain called our prefrontal cortex, and it's responsible for thinking, planning, decision-making. It's a really important part of our brain. And when we get stressed, our body gets flooded with cortisol, and cortisol then causes that part of our brain to switch off. When we're under pressure, we often make bad decisions, we procrastinate, we don't always think logically, and that's because that part of the brain isn't switched on. It's gone offline. Now, the quickest way to get that part of your brain back online is breath technique. So if you practice a couple of minutes of breath technique, calms down your central nervous system, and it brings your prefrontal cortex back online. And then you can make better decisions and you can respond rather than react. So that's a good example of a neurohack. It's that ability to carry out a task without compromising, using a science-backed technique.
That sounds really good. So say somebody was experienced burnout like I did, are there any noticeable signs of burnout that you would recognize and could help somebody address it?
Yeah, burnout is when like stress, everything's like overhyped. Burnout's the opposite. Everything like feels quite numb. Obviously, mentally, physically exhausted. They're kinds of some of the signs. You might procrastinate more. Relationships might feel a little bit more strained. You might get physical symptoms as well, like headaches, joint aches, disrupted sleep. insomnia. Day-to-day stuff feels like a real struggle. And that's kind of some of the signs to watch out for. Obviously, that's everybody gets days when they are struggling with their sleep or they procrastinate more. So you've just got to be careful that you don't get too caught up in it and think, oh my God, am I going to get, have I got burnout? It's quite normal to have those feelings. But I think when you've got a series of those symptoms on an ongoing basis, and it's not, alleviating or slowing down, then I think you've got to check in with yourself and say, like, how am I doing? How am I really feeling? And do I need some additional support and help?
And what do you consider the biggest barriers, do you think, to accessing mental health resources in the workplace?
Budget. That's a huge challenge, especially right now, given kind of the state of the economy and where businesses are at. Budget is one of the things that restricts businesses from doing things. I think there's still a stigma around mental health. I think people, not everybody, but people are reluctant to share how they feel. They see it as a slight or not great if they're not fit, if they're not feeling well mentally. So stigma, budget, time as well. Businesses have lots of great plans to run workshops and bring experts in to do things. But if you're really busy, then you won't want to make that time away from your desk to do that workshop or to see that piece of training. So I'd say they're probably like three of the biggest challenges: finances, stigma, and time.
And do you think people worry about bringing a mental health problem to the table ultimately with their managers, or from the stigma perspective, just be like, oh God, are they going to be off sick? Are they, they're not going to be able to do their job? Or if they make a mistake in their job, that they worry that it's going to be portrayed as, well, as a reason to maybe get rid of them or terminate their contract. Do you think there's that stigma there as well?
I think there is probably an issue in companies where they don't have that open conversation about mental health, where they don't have resources, where they're not supporting their teams. Because if you're doing all of that, then people should feel empowered to have a conversation about their mental health and not feel like they're going to be judged or it's going to impact, whether or not they get that promotion or whether they'll lose their job because they're not fit to perform. So I think if you've got the right culture, people shouldn't feel that. But if people are feeling that, then I think you've got to take a step back and ask why, like what's going on in my business or what's going on in our company or our team, why that person feels like they can't share that.
Finally, before I let you go, what message do you hope to leave everyone with regarding their mental well-being journey?
Stay in your own lane. Don't get caught up with what everybody else is doing, because I think I said at the top, when it comes to mental wellness, there's no one size fits all. And I think in today's always on culture, it's really easy to get caught up in what everybody else is doing. So, you got that friend who gets up at 5 a.m. and does a workout and meditates and gets the kids ready for school and cooks a scratch, lunch and breakfast all before leaving the house. And that can then make you think, oh my God, am I doing enough? What do I need to do? And we can put enormous amount of pressure on ourselves. And I think when it comes to your wellness, it's about finding what works for you. And like I said as well, you don't have to do big things. It can just be little things like, get the fundamentals right. Like if I eat well, if I hydrate and I get a bit of movement into my day, that's probably going to have an impact on my sleep. And that's going to have an impact on how I perform the next day at work and how I feel about myself. Definitely start small, build it into your daily routine, but 100% stay in your own lane, because it doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. It's about what works for you and what feels authentic and feels right.
And I am definitely not the getting up at 5 a.m. person.
Me neither.
That is not
Yeah.
me. That is not
No,
me. You know, I don't even want to be that person either.
no,
That sounds ridiculous.
I know. Do you know what? I run this workshop and I have spoke to a couple of companies around kind of the girl boss era and how the girl boss era is dead. And it's not about wearing busy badges. It's about how you can, still be productive, but you don't have to be busy all the time. Because I think we get really caught up in that busy culture. And, I see people and I'm like, how are you? And the first thing they tell me is that they're busy. And we wear busy like a badge of honor. Like if we're not busy, then,
We're
we're not doing
lazy.
our jobs properly, or we're lazy, or we're not, fulfilling our potential, or we haven't got a great social life, or however it is, like we're programmed to think. So, yeah, I think that whole busy culture has got to be squashed, and you can still be productive, but you don't have to, it's about working smarter and not harder.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I'm definitely one of those people who feel like I have to say that I'm busy because I don't want to be portrayed as lazy or be judged for not doing enough when actually I'm
Yeah.
probably doing 10,000 things. And it's, yeah, as well as family life and looking after the little one and doing a podcast and, all of that stuff, but I do like being busy as well. That's the thing, isn't it? Because I do like to fill my day with doing a podcast and meetings and picking up my daughter from school and then doing all those things. I do like that side of things, but I probably fall into that trap of, oh, how are you? Oh, yeah, so busy, so busy. So maybe I need to wind my neck in a bit and not say that.
I'll just reframe it to like being productive.
Mm,
Oh, I'm really I'm getting loads done right now. Like things are really exciting. I've got lots of really great things to look forward to, and I'm working on some
yeah.
amazing projects. Because you get people as well, like who will sit in offices and be the last person to leave because they
Mm.
don't want to be the first person. And
'Cause you get that
yeah,
look, don't you? If you're the first person
you're
out the
the
door,
first
you get
person
the
to leave.
look. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember that from my corporate days.
Mm,
But I know that when I go in flow state, I'm really efficient
yeah.
and I get through things because when you're in flow state as well, you're more productive, you get more things done. So you can get a lot done if you just work smarter.
Great tip. Thank you so much. And how can people find you if they wish to do so?
I am on LinkedIn, Anji McGrandles. We are on Instagram at The Mind Tribe, and our website is www.themindtribe.co.uk.
Well, I'll put all of your info in the show notes. Thank you so much for being with me today. I really
No, it was
appreciate it.
lovely. Have a good
Take
rest of
care.
the day. Bye.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my latest podcast. You can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram. The links are in the show notes. Or you can contact me on jodie@jodiefraser.com. For more content and updates, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favourite platforms. Thank you once again for listening. Until next time, take care.